Yeah. So all praise to Allah. West Coast 85, jump in here, bro. Request. Let's talk, man. Someone says, is Islam good? What is the definition of good? I don't think Islam is good. Personally. I think it's a bad religion, man. I think it's the type of faith it's not the type of faith you want to follow. I know that. I was just talking to a new student of mine. She lived in Saudi Arabia and she lived under Sharia law. And she said it's horrible. She said it's horrible, particularly for women. That's what she said. The people who never lived in Saudi Arabia, they don't know that. But the people who never lived in under Sharia law, they don't know that. But people who live there, they know that. Upper Darby was always better than Drexel Hill. What are you talking about? Upper Darby like better than Drexel Hill? Like the area? Because if you're saying the area, like definitely not, bro. Drexel Hill, at least you can walk down the street and not worry about getting stabbed to death. I can't tell you how many fights I've been on in Long Lane, man. The video you just made you mad. Welcome to the club, Mason Reed. Welcome to the club of people who hate me because I speak things that they don't like. Welcome to the club, bro. You can't send a request. Let me see if I can get you in here. I just sent you an invite. Oh, the guy burning the flag? Oh, yeah, okay. In that case, totally agree. You're right, man. That pissed me off, too. What's up, man?
Hey, can you hear me?
What's up, brother?
Hey, what's up? What's up?
My man, back in the fight.
I figured I'd join in to give you something.
Ready for round two.
Okay, so I guess I would like to hear
ding.
What is your main argument against secularism?
Well, it's not necessarily that secularism is bad. It's that Christianity life is better than secular life. And I would like to just use.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Sorry, I think my I can't hear anything. Give me a second. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you perfectly clear, bro.
God damn it.
Can you hear me? Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Chat, can you guys hear me? Chat, can you hear us? Yes,
okay,
yes. You hear me now?
All right. But yeah, what's your main argument against secularism?
Well, essentially, the fact of the matter is that secularism is kind of how we're getting pushed to live our life right now in America, like in the West, essentially, where our standard is based off of societal norms, and because of those societal norms, those dictate exactly what it is that we're able to do. Those are the laws, or whatever the case is, and when those societal norms change, what's right and wrong shifts ultimately. And so then you have Christianity or a Christian society. The reality with a Christian society, you find yourself in a position where it's more fixed, right? It's better, right? Men don't cheat on their wives, at least they're not supposed to. Like if you live by the law, as far as Jesus taught, it's a higher quality life. People have a moral compass. That's what I think.
But in that you say you don't believe that it's bad. You don't believe secularism is bad?
I think secularism personally is bad, sure. But I'm saying, I'm not arguing whether or not it's bad. I mean, think about it. What is secularism? Secularism is a life of, degeneracy. Like, think about Cardi B. Think about Nicki Minaj. Think about booty shaking. Think about the clubs, strip clubs, prostitution, OnlyFans. That's all secularist ideas. Think about the music that we listen to today. Secularism. Right? So, like, when I think secularism, that's what I think about. And so it's just a life far from God.
I disagree that because you I feel like your argument equates to like secularism with moral decay, or like suggesting that the absence of religion or religious authority leads to hedonism, or materialism, or moral collapse,
Well,
whatever have you, like in
well,
pop culture.
maybe not moral,
But
maybe not complete moral collapse, but I mean, definitely, it definitely leads toward materialism. It definitely leads toward, like, think about it like this: what name a type of governing that is completely detached from faith.
well, I wanna stay on what you said earlier. I think you can point to people who say that they don't believe in God, and they end up doing the things that you described, like the people that you mentioned, like Cardi B, which I'm pretty sure she said she's Christian or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that
But
she did.
um, but a lot of those people will say those things. So I don't consider those people secularist. Um, who am I to say they're not Christian if they say they are, and who are you to say they're not Christian if they say they are? So those people that you point to as the reason why secularism is the reason why we are where we're at. Some of those people claim to be Christian, so they're not secularists to say.
No,
So I don't know
what
if
they
that's
claim to be is
necessarily
irrelevant,
true.
right? Like, I could claim to be a Christian, but if I go out and murder people, I'm a murderer. Wouldn't you agree?
I think
I murdered
murderers can
somebody, but I'm a Christian. Well, which one is it?
Christians can be murderers too.
Okay, so then secularists can, or Christians can do secular things, right? Like, I'm not saying that
Murder
they can't claim to
murder
be
is
a
not
Christian. What I'm saying
murder is
is,
not a secular thing,
well,
right? Like, you
well,
understand that?
murder would technically be a secular thing, right? Because it's a
No.
sin.
Yes, but the act of murder is not mutually exclusive to a belief.
Well, let's get our definitions right here.
Okay.
Let's get the definitions right? So what is the definition of secularism? All right, so let's get a definition. Secularism is a principle that government, laws, and public institutions should operate independently of religious authority or religious belief. In plain terms, the state does not favor nor enforce any religion. Religious beliefs are considered personal, not basis for law. People are free to believe, practice, or not practice. Separation of church
Yep.
and state, religious freedom, neutral public policy. Um,
Yep.
yeah, okay. So,
So let me give you then my argument for secularism.
okay,
Is that cool?
sure.
Um, I think by removing God from public life, as you mentioned, like schools and things like that, I think it produces a culture of moral. Um,
Moral.
I Can you hear me?
I hear you. I just cut the music so I can hear you better.
Yeah, I think um, I think secularism protects freedom of
Freedom
of
of what?
both the believers, like people who believe and people who don't believe. Right. So it will allow individuals to live according to their
So
own
let me ask
moral
you this
convictions
question: who do you
without
think lives
fear.
a better life? People who are, if you had a society run by Christians, governed by Christians in a Christian way, would that be a better country? And secularists were, and atheists or non-believers, agnostics, whatever, were able to live underneath of that rule. Would that be a better life, or is a life where secularism is the governing authority, and throughout that ideology, you have people running the streets doing all types of crazy things because there is no religious or faith based or moral, faith based moral compass. Which one do you think it would be better? Like, let's just say we flipped everything on its head, and the president of the United States was also a devout Christian, and like public schools, for example, were Christian schools. How come it is when you go to a Christian school, it usually has a better education than public schools? Why is that?
I don't know how true that is,
It's
but to
very
answer
true.
your
No, I mean, like,
question,
statistically speaking, they get better test
I will
scores.
grant that is true because I don't know, right? So I was to say I grant that
But
you are
I'll
right.
say, well, if you grant that is true, then the question is, why would that be the case?
No, no. I will grant that is true, and I want to answer the question to what do I think would be a better place to live,
Okay.
right? Where people, I think you said, uh, yeah, it would be better if we were governed by a secular president or a secular person, or if we were governed by religion.
Okay.
I would clarify that a society governed by Christianity, I don't think would necessarily produce greater, uh, uh, like or social well-being. But then I guess that comes down to what your measurement or your metric of a better life is. Obviously, if you're a Christian, we kind of understand what that looks like. Um,
Well, let's think about it like this. Like, what are some Christian beliefs, right? So, like, for example, married couples, like, trying to have, and again, we're talking like perfect case scenario, right? Like, nobody's perfect, right? But like, born out of wedlock. So, for example, before 1963, when Bible and prayer was banned from schools, before 1963, what was going on? Well, the black community specifically had only 8% of babies born out of wedlock. And it's because it was a heavily religious, heavily faith based society. And it goes for the white culture too, just America in general, right? It was a very heavily faith based society. And people, they went to church as a family. They walked to church on Sunday morning. They ate together. They said prayer before dinner. And then when they took prayer out of school, took Bibles out of schools, then you had kids who they lost their way of God and they replaced it with Darwinism, and then they replaced it with Big Bang Theory, and they replaced it with all this stuff that can't be proven, and then they try to say that that essentially is more realistic, and then you got Dr. Martin Luther King that comes and preaches about Marxism and says he's not a Marxist, and it's this whole mess, and I'm not going to go into all that, but the point is they removed God from society, and then they replaced it with Marxism, Freudianism, and Darwinism, and it's all godless, classless basis. And then ever since then, we've had a degradation of society to the point where even
I
Generation
think, I
Z,
think,
to my
I
last
think,
point, even to the point where
uh,
Generation Z, this generation of young people that you're seeing right now, the 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, kids, 1/3 of their entire generation has already been killed through abortion because of secularism.
I I understand the concern, the concern you have about like moral decline,
Hmm.
or like the correlation between removing prayer from schools and social problems is not evidence of causation, right? Like you think that that's what caused those things. I think that's a very multi-layered issue when it comes to abortion and all those things. Regardless,
Well, prove to
many
me that it's not.
factors. I would like to get into that, right? So, like many factors, economic inequality, systemic racism, urbanation, and changes in family structure played like far greater roles to that, right? More of a scientific theories like evolution or Big Bang theory and what'd you say? I don't think
Marxism.
those aren't moral systems, right? They
Marxism
describe
definitely is a moral
reality.
system.
I meant like what you brought up as far as Big Bang theory and Darwinism,
Well,
right?
what they
They
do,
describe
what they
those
do
things
is,
describe reality. They
what
don't
they do is they
prescribe behavior.
remove, what they do is they remove God, and that's the point. When you remove God, God is a higher authority than man, and so when you remove that, then it opens the
But
door for
societies
interpretation
that
as to what is and
like
isn't okay.
I don't know if you're understanding my position. Like I think societies that embrace science and secular governance, I don't think they have not collapsed
I'm not saying they have.
like I think they advanced in education, as you said they weren't. I think we are much more advanced in education
I
and
think I
health
think I
and
think that I can
equality. Like
agree in a sense. I can agree in a sense that it creates more curiosity, right? And um I think that science, like it's hard to explain sometimes because you got to recognize, and you do recognize this because you're a Muslim, right? And so you got to
I didn't
under.
say that.
You're not a Muslim, are you?
Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead,
You're not.
go ahead, go
Did
ahead.
I change your mind the last time we spoke?
And this at this point, I'm a secular arguing against Christianity
Okay.
in this talk right now.
Okay. All right. Fair. So the reality is that when you think about things in a religious, I don't even like using the word religious, right? We can, I believe in my heart, in my core, and just through pure logic, my existence proves God exists. Period.
I don't. That is such a, because that that and then like I said, I don't want to right now make the argument whether God exists or not, right?
Well,
Because say even God doesn't exist, Christianity is real,
it's
right?
impossible
If
for
you
God not to exist. It's
sure,
impossible. It is
regardless,
impossible for God not to exist. What is, because even if the
regardless, the
definition of
discussion is
God,
about Christianity,
even if the
right?
definition of God is different, even if what I believe God to be is not actually what God is, there is still a God, an all powerful creator in which we are a
Sure,
part of.
sure. But
Okay.
I don't want to go off topic,
Yeah,
right?
let's not get too crazy here.
So we're talking about the idea of Christianity is better than secular life, right? So
Right.
even if God doesn't exist, which I'm not, that's not what I'm saying. Christianity is a real thing, and we're saying if we follow this thing we call Christianity, we'll live a better life than secular people, and that's the argument that I'm making. I think the real issue isn't the absence of God in schools, but the need for critical thinking, empathy, and shared like civic values that we have. I don't think that depends on a religious conformity, right? I think we have that innate function as people.
So, okay, so what proof do you have that what proof do you have that Christian countries or faith-based organizations, or excuse me, faith-based countries have less critical thinking, less development in STEM fields? Like, where's your evidence
Well,
to
I
speak on
can
that?
just go over what you said just now, right? Like
Hmm.
the example you gave earlier, you said, "Hey, we have things like uh, Darwinism and all these things."
Right. Which are
If we
theories, by the
utilize,
way? Which are
if
theories?
sure, sure, if we utilize what you said, right? Um, if we utilize Christianity, they will run the country based off of um, like when religion dominates governance, right? Whether this was like medieval Europe or modern theocracies, right? It doesn't matter. Science and progress are constrained by those religious beliefs, right? Especially when it talks about things like creation, right? Things
Hmm.
like evolution, because you are not to you are not to question how those things work or even attempt to describe reality as we can empirically see, right? And do science.
Well,
So
as far as
I think
Islam goes, that's true.
I'm sorry.
In Islam that is very true.
We're not talking about
I
Islam.
know, but what I'm
You have
saying,
you literally
no,
have
no,
a
no. You're not
complete.
you're not a Muslim, bro. You're a secularist. I understand, but what my point is that in Christianity, science is actually science is actually it's actually pushed, right. Like many early scientists were Christian. Um, in fact, all science really is the understanding of God's creation. It's understanding how God did what he did, how God formed what he has formed. That's really what science is. He created all things, and it's us trying to understand how all things work. In certain religions, in certain faiths, it's frowned upon to ask questions and to dig into it or to go outside of your faith for understanding. And it's best to just say, well, because God said it, right? That's true. And you'll find that in some Christian areas. But what I'd like to do is read you just a couple of statistics that I looked up on ChatGPT. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right. Now, it may be biased, right? But for example, even simple things like trust and social cohesion. Okay. Trust and social cohesion. Just being able to trust your neighbor. Countries historically shaped by Christianity show far higher social trust, which directly impacts crime, economics, and governance. Key statistic: high trust societies grow 2 to 3 times faster economically over time than low trust societies. Example: Denmark, Norway, and Netherlands. 60 to 75% of people say most people can be trusted. where other secular post-religious states outside of Christian moral
Denmark,
tradition.
the secular. I thought Denmark was very secular.
Well, they're heavily Christian, heavily Christian
Denmark,
based. Well, yes,
Jesus,
Denmark,
I
Norway,
would never
Netherlands,
thought that.
right?
Okay,
Um, crime and violence rates. Even today, societies grounded in Christian moral inheritance consistently show lower violent crime. Homicide rates per 100,000. Historic Christian nations, 1 to 2 homicides per 100,000. Highly secular or non-theistic moral systems, often 5 to 20 plus homicides per 100,000. So these are just basic stats. They don't necessarily hold too much weight because they're not attached to any particular study, but they're just statistics over time. Even human rights and equality.
I'm pretty sure like Denmark, Norway. I think all that area in Scandinavia is literally mostly secular. I think you are actually proving my point
I don't
because
believe
there's
so.
no way Norway and Denmark and Netherlands are Christians. Like right
Why aren't
now,
they?
I if I looked it up, all those countries in Scandinavia, I think those are the most secular countries in the world. Actually, like I don't know, like I could be. I'm pretty sure they're very secular.
Well, the one
And
thing I
if those
love
numbers you
about
say are true,
the one thing I love about our world is that we have so much
I wish I
technology
could.
because of our
I wish I could
secularists.
search. I know, but I got TikTok on my phone,
I
so I
got.
can
I'm
barely
looking it
search
up for us.
anything.
Okay. So short answer.
But I'm pretty
So my
sure.
question.
I'm
Hold on.
pretty sure Denmark
My
is.
question was: is Denmark, Norway, and Scandinavia Christian countries? Short answer: yes, culturally and historically, but not necessarily in daily practice, which is where you're probably referring. Let's break it down. Historically, yes, Christianity became dominant 1,000 years ago. Churches shaped the laws, marriage, education, moral norms. Very similar to America.
But what about today
And
in say Scandinavia?
even today, these societies still operate on human dignity, equality before the law, high
Not
trust.
Christianity. Though.
Well, hold on. High trust, care for the weak, moral accountability. All of those are Christian moral assumptions, even if people don't call them that. And this is my
Okay, so
this is
come on, we can't operate
well,
off
no, but
that.
here's my point. Allow me to make my point. The point is that these are Christian norms. These are things that stemmed from Christianity, which is why you see a certain lifestyle in the West versus a certain lifestyle in the East. The problem is here in the West, as we begin to degrade these things, what starts to happen is people start to believe whatever society believes. So the further we take God away from things, now all of a sudden, human dignity. Let's look at human
Okay,
dignity. Hold
but
on.
like,
Let's look at human dignity alone. Think about the fact if we look at the radical left and the radical right of our everyday politics today, what you're looking at is people who, when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, they literally cheered in the streets. They were like, yeah, woohoo, wow, we're happy. This is crazy. Where's the human dignity in that? And simultaneously, that side, and again, I'm bipartisan for
do
everyone
you believe
watching.
human dignity
Hold
is
on.
exclusive to Christianity?
No, but I'm making a point here. That side, particularly liberals, happen to be more on the atheist, secularist side of the house. That's a just known fact. They want to separate church and state. Trust me, I've been persecuted myself. I've been banned from entire school districts. So, like, my point is, like, these people, they're the furthest from God. They're the ones who are homosexuals. They're the one they're advocating for trans rights. They're the one that are really pushing a lot of this stuff. And so through that comes this disregard for human dignity, and that was
Yeah.
shown in that incident.
Okay. Okay. So look, this is why I say like everything you described just now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then so if places that you mentioned earlier, like Denmark, Norway, and Netherlands, those people got rid of all the things that you said we got rid of here, right? Those people are mostly today.
What do you mean got rid
Mostly
of?
strictly like prayer in school, and they're like most like strictly like secular countries.
Right. They're
When as
moving in
far
that
as
direction. We're
governance,
all moving in that
yeah,
direction.
as
Yes.
far as governance goes, right? And then you mentioned all the good things that they have today, and I will add as a result of historical Christian
Christianity. Yeah.
governance, right?
Exactly.
So what that shows me right? Because of those statistics that you read off,
Mhm.
what that shows me is you can get away from Christian ethics
Right.
and still reach good things.
Well, we're at good things, right? Because
That's literally
hold
what
on.
that shows me.
Yes, and you're not wrong, but what you're missing is you're looking at it backwards. You're thinking that these things are permanent, and they're not permanent. They
What's
are
not permanent?
well, these
I'm
Christian
not saying that.
like these Christian ethics that are no longer tied to Christianity, but they've been like, essentially the footprint of Christianity. The foot has left, the print still remains. It's not Christianity, but it's still those ethics. The problem is there's nothing keeping that footprint there. The weather will come, wash it away. Just like I'm making a point with the human dignity. As we separate, whatever socioeconomic norms become normal, that becomes what is accepted. For example, countries that fall into communism, that happens only simply because we remove God from the country. We start.
That's not why communism exists.
Well, tell me a communist country that has God in it. Show me one. Show me one.
Didn't Hitler say he believed in God?
Absolutely not. Show me
Didn't
one.
say that.
Well, they weren't communists. First of all, they were fascists. That's a whole different political ideology. But like,
sure.
I'm talking about Joseph Stalin. I'm talking about even Maduro. I'm talking about old boy in Cuba.
Like, do you think like your
Zhao.
argument literally assumes,
Or excuse me, Mao.
Your argument assumes morality can only originate from Christianity?
No, but what I'm saying is that morality originates from the belief of a higher energy, a higher power, and a moral compass focused off of.
I disagree with that.
Well, I know you do, but that's why we're having a conversation. And so, if you don't have a moral, higher moral being. So, for example, I'll give you a prime example. I use this example all the time. I love my wife. I love her so much. She's everything to me, right? Even to the point where she gave me this hot cup of tea for no reason. She just came down and gave me this tea, right? What a sweetheart. It's 10:30 at night. I should be sleeping. But she takes care of me, right? And so I love her. And because I love her, I will not be unfaithful to her. And I won't be unfaithful to her because I love her. But that's not the only reason why I'm not unfaithful to her. I'm not unfaithful to her also because I have a higher moral compass, because I know that when this life is over, I have to meet God. And God is going to look at me and judge me for every single thing that I've done. And so that is one of the reasons why I don't cheat, or one of the reasons why I don't lie or don't steal. It's not the only reason, but in a society, and I'll give you a prime example. I'm from Philadelphia, right? And in Philadelphia, in the ghetto, it's normal to beat people up when they walk down the street and to steal stuff from people. I used to steal people's wallets, steal money out of their wallets. I used to do all types of crazy stuff because in that society, that was what was normal. There was no higher moral being.
Okay, so let me just, and I would like to get through this because I keep forgetting what I'm about to say. But to say that to have morality, you must have some sort of higher power or whatever. It's literally like,
I'm not saying you do. I'm saying that it changes.
So what are you saying?
What I'm saying is that this book, or this book even, right, which I don't support.
So answer.
In either of these, I'm answering it. In either of these books, these are fixed. These are what people believe. These are religious texts that have been around for thousands of years. And because of that, people have a moral standing with what they consider to be their God. And when you don't have that anchor, then it can change depending on the circumstances of the world.
But do you know that there are books older than both those two that establish a line of morality?
Of course.
Okay. So a person can be moral and do things that you might be considered good or virtuous.
The difference is show me a secularist who is looking at one of those books as their guide. Show me one.
Not a lot of them.
Who?
Literally millions of them.
Right? There's no, but is there any fixed? Is there any fixed book though? No. Is there any modern reading that they all can agree to that they say this is our moral line?
Yes.
Prove it. Which one?
If you look at, I will say it. If you
say it. Go ahead. Don't let me stop you.
Okay. So I have plenty of examples. So one, you have like Immanuel Kant, who
Never heard of
has
him.
the idea of Kantianism.
Never heard
Right?
of him. And I guarantee you nobody in the
He's a
chat's ever heard of him. The guy who's about
that's
to
not my
cheat, the
that's
guy
not
who's
my
about to
fault.
cheat on his wife, I guarantee you is not thinking about that dude when it comes to not doing
Okay,
it.
bro, but you gotta let me get through these thoughts, bro.
All right, Aaron, chill, Aaron. Aaron's like, I read it. What a hater.
Right? So Kantianism, Immanuel Kant is a Prussian philosopher who came up with a thing called the categorical imperatives, which will teach you how to be a good person. You have someone like Aristotle who has the thing, the virtue ethics. You have someone like John Stuart Mill who came up with the idea of utilitarianism and how you can do all those things, right? All those things are measures of morality, right? That you will utilize to decide what is good and what is evil, what is good and what is bad. And there are things like divine command theory, like God, for example, where people will utilize the Bible to decide what is good and what is bad. So if you can agree that people can be moral without having a higher power, then the argument is not whether Christianity or secularism is the problem, is the practice in itself, right? So if someone does practice Kantianism, they can come to what is morally correct, right?
Well, the real argument here, the real argument here is that Christianity or Christian life, Christian society is a better society than that of a secular nation. And so if every single nation in the West, which we can agree is a better, like everyone's migrating to the West because it's a better quality of life. So if all of those countries are built and based off of Christian ethics, then they obviously build better society.
I disagree.
What do you disagree with? Which part?
I disagree with the fact that yes, people migrate to the West not because it's Christian, because it's free, because it's prosperous, because it's governed by secular democratic principles, rule of law, right? People come, you just told me how this country is becoming more secular.
It's becoming more secular, but it's not secular.
Right. Okay,
like the fact that, for example, marriage
is more secular than Saudi Arabia. Right?
It is more secular than Saudi Arabia, yes. So but it's Christian because Saudi Arabia is Muslim. Everything in Muslim sucks. Everything Muslim sucks. Right? Christianity does not.
It's more secular than Israel, right? So why aren't people going there? It's more secular than the Vatican. It's more secular.
Brother, it's because it's not Christian. It's not a Christian life. It's not Christian ethics. It's not based on free market. It's not Christian ethics. They're Muslim ethics or Judaism, which
I'm talking about the Vatican.
Where the Vatican is a building. It's a small island.
A country.
Technically, yes, I've been there. Have you?
I don't have to be there.
I'm just saying. I know what it is. I walked through the Sistine Chapel. I've been there. My point is.
I'm glad you have.
My point is right that people are. It's clear migration is coming to the West. Like that's not even an argument. You can't say that it's not happening.
But I'm not saying it's not happening.
You are
I know
actually.
It's happening, but I'm telling you, it's not.
Why is it happening?
Because of Christianity.
It's happening because of the Christian. It's happening because of the Christian ethics, the life in which it was built by Christian ethics. We just established, brother. Hold on. We just established that countries like Denmark, Sweden, America, Canada, the UK, all of these countries, even Germany, even through World War II, all these countries were built off of Christian life and ethics, a society based off of moral compass focused on God, under God, not just any God, not Allah, but the God of the Bible. That's a fact. People put their hand on the Bible. The dollar, do you have a dollar in your pocket? What does it say at the top?
It's not a fact.
It says, "In God we trust." Everything in this country was built off of God. Even the Declaration of Independence, brother. Even the Declaration of Independence talks about having the pursuit of happiness, God-given rights. Like everything is based off of God. As soon as we take God out of things, it slowly starts to lose its grasp, and that is what you're starting to see. That is the unraveling.
Why is it getting better in Denmark and the Scandinavian countries?
It's
Why is
not.
it
It's
getting
getting
worse?
worse because of migration from
Bro,
Muslims.
you just read me a statistic
Brother, brother.
that showed me how much better it's gotten.
No, what I'm showing you is the fact that Denmark and Sweden,
No hate like
brother,
preachers, though.
I'll
That's
read
a
it to you
fact.
again. Denmark and Sweden are countries that have Christian ethics. The problem with
No,
Denmark and
before that,
Sweden is that they opened
before
up their
that,
borders. Brother,
the
I'm reading it.
statistics, the statistics you read about the murder rate, about all that stuff,
Okay, let me read it to you right here.
those are better. Those are good.
Let me read it to you. Let me read it to you. Denmark and Sweden, 60 to 70% of people say most people can be trusted. It didn't say anything about murder.
Can.
Most people
But-
can,
but-
C-A-N, can be
Right.
trusted.
Yeah, and remember, you were saying that cohesion and stuff is good because of Christianity. You're saying you highlighted those countries as being people who have that type of cohesion and trust. Those countries are largely secular today in 2026, right?
Yes, they
That's
are
what you
moving
pointed to.
in that direction, brother. But how many years do you think they
No,
can
they've been
move?
secular for a long
Brother,
time.
no,
They've
they
been
haven't.
secular
How
for a
many
long time.
years? Let me put an example like this. America's been around for 250 years. In the first 200 years, everything that happened in this country was built off of this Christian backing. Not everyone was a Christian, but it was about having God in your life. People read the Bible, they prayed, kids went to school, the communities were walking to church together. Black, there was no born out of wedlock. Like there was a lot of really good
First of all,
things going
you
on.
gotta stop saying that. There was
I'm
no
pointing
one out
out
of
the
wedlock.
I'm
That's
pointing
not
out
true.
the
There was
moral.
no. That's
Brother,
not
please
true.
don't interrupt. I'm
Not
pointing.
true.
Listen to my point.
I'm interrupting.
I'm pointing out the ethical life, the morality of how all communities, white, black, all of us lived in just a better way and in so many ways. And so my point is, then when they made the push to take, again, we're back in this full circle, the Bible out of school, prayer out of school, replaced the idea that God created everything with Darwinism and that God created everything with evolution and the Big Bang Theory. They replaced it, and then they removed God from schools. What ended up happening was we're no longer teaching people about God. We take that out of our government. Nobody wants to have that in their government. What do we get? We start to have the last 50 years from 1960 until 2000s, the last 50, 60, 70 years. Now all of a sudden, in that short period of time, look at the great divide. Yes, there has been tremendous progress. I agree. We've made great technological advances, medical advances, and secularism very possibly could be to thank for those things. But simultaneously, we've had a complete degradation in our society. Women run the streets. They have sex with 10, 15, 20 people before marriage, bro. They're ran through. Men, the same exact way. Children grow up without fathers. I was one of them. Maybe you were too. I don't know. Like, we have a gigantic issue of abortion. Women go and get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 abortions. We are literally being cast out as a Western civilization because we're not even producing our own children anymore. We're not even having babies. So my point is not that secularism hasn't had its benefits. Of course it has. But I'm saying that a Christian society, which many of the things that we still believe today and have are the deepest roots in how we live our lives today, were based off of Christianity, it would be a better life. Not to say that secularists and humanists could not exist underneath of that umbrella, but it's just to have that moral ethics. And that's why I support Donald Trump and that entire cabinet, because they are moving in a direction where they put God back into the eyes of the American people. Whether or not people love it or not, it's the truth. It's a better life.
Okay. I was trying to listen very intently, and you said a lot, and I would please like for you to allow me to respond to it.
Hit it.
Okay. And I know you're probably going to hear something I say. You want to jump in, but please let me get through this.
Okay.
So, first of all, I disagree, right? Wholeheartedly. I don't think what you said about the United States was like you